how often did you visit Tupac while he was in prison? And when he was in prison, what was his attitude and overall feeling about why he was in prison and his overall mood when you went to see him?
Yeah, I was going to visit him every month.
Okay.
His attitude, he was strong. He was very strong. He's a soldier. So he stayed to himself.
Mm-hmm.
He did a lot of writing. He read a lot. But in our conversations was mainly about his enemies. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. And who did he say some of his enemies were at that particular time?
Almost everybody in New York, man. You know what I'm saying? There was some exceptions.
Right.
You know, but for the most part, man, from Pac's point of view, outside of the exceptions, the allies that he had in New York and the fan base that he had in New York, he was particularly angry with the hip hop community in New York.
Okay.
Right. Not everybody.
Right.
But he was, you know, he had enemies.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That was his thing. I have enemies.
Right.
And we're gonna address these enemies when I get, you know.
And so who were some of the people that he said, if you don't mind saying?
I don't want to talk about.
You don't want to talk about?
No.
Okay. So, well, in having enemies at that particular time when he was dealing with that, him saying him have enemies, what was his overall feeling? What was his overall
Number one, his overall stance on that was that, first of all, he wanted to change his image.
Okay.
Right. He wanted to sort of like transform himself into on a higher level.
Okay.
In his game, right?
Right.
He wanted to get married. You know, he wanted to move to another place.
Right.
You know, he wanted to change.
So was he married to Keisha Morris at the time?
No.
He wasn't married.
They weren't married at that time.
At that time, okay.
They were about to get married. I was his best man, by the way.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, I was his best man.
So in the jail?
Yeah.
Yeah,
wow. I was his best. Him and my sister. My sister was Keisha's witness, and I was his best man.
Okay. Interesting. See, new information, Brother Lee saying we would never have known.
You would never, because I can't find the pictures, like all the pictures we took. I don't know where they at. You know what I'm saying?
So who was responsible for taking the pictures?
I don't remember. When you were Click, some guy in jail in the New York penal colony.
Right.
The picture fundraiser is called Click.
Okay, gotcha.
So it was some Click guy.
Click. Okay. Yeah. And so he wanted to get married.
He got married.
No, I'm saying you were saying that he wanted to get married.
At the time when I was going to visit him, that was his goal. He wanted to get married.
Right.
He wanted to settle down. He wanted to disclaim thug life. He wanted to kill thug life.
Kill thug life.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And he wanted to take another persona that would have advanced him on another level.
On a higher level.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was reading Machiavelli.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? The book Machiavelli by Prince Machiavelli.
Right.
He was reading that book and he was getting inspired by that. He was reading a whole lot of other books. And, you know, he was talking about how he was having problems getting his packages in the prison.
Okay.
You know, same complaints that I would have in prison.
Right.
You know, food is nasty, bazawoo.
Mm-hmm.
They're not giving me my cigarettes. And,
right.
You know, they keep me locked in. But, you know, he wasn't in population. It wasn't like he couldn't go to population.
Right.
Pop could have went anywhere he wanted. Like we all through New York State prisons, we were strong in those prisons.
Absolutely.
You know, we got people all over those prisons. That wasn't going to be a problem for him.
Right.
But he didn't want to lean on them for any type of support that way. He wanted to do that. He said this to me personally. He wanted to do this himself and not lean on them from any support.
Right. Because sometimes that can be reversed. Even though you Tupac Shakur, you know, you need me. Hey, man, I need you because X, Y, and Z on whatever level.
And by the way, send something to my books. You know what I'm saying? Nigga, you got money.
Yeah, send that. Let me get some soup and some noodles at the commissary.
You know what I'm saying?
Right. Very interesting, man. I really appreciate that. While Tupac was in prison and you went to see him, did any time during your visit, did he express the situation that was going on involving the guards and them harassing him and mistreating him?
Yeah. Part of it was like I was in Clinton.
Okay.
Before he was in Clinton.
So you had already did time in Clinton.
Yeah.
Okay.
I worked on Clinton Farm. They got a huge farm.
Right.
you know,
Okay.
and they raise cows,
Right.
you know, and the milk that we get from their cows, we serve to the prison system in New York.
Wow.
Yeah. And I worked on their farm. So I was milking their cows. So I know Clinton Dannemora.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And the city is a small town, Plattsburgh, New York.
Okay.
And it's known to be a town where there's a high rate of incest.
Okay.
Right? It's a beautiful town.
Right.
You know, quiet town, beautiful town, but it's, you know, it's way up in upstate New York. It's on the border of Canada. And when I used to visit Pac, I used to fly from Atlanta to Canada, Montreal,
Right.
and take somehow find my way. Either I can go to Clinton through Vermont. I used to fly into Vermont and go, or fly into Montreal.
Okay.
And we used to be able to take what you call the boats.
Ferry.
Ferry.
Right.
Yeah. Ferry.
Okay.
From Montreal to Clinton Dannemora.
Okay.
So that's how that was my route.
Right.
And because I knew I had a background in Clinton, I was able to make them aware what to expect from the guards there and everything.
Right.
And, you know, they were harassing him in a lot of ways. You know, like I mentioned earlier, they wasn't allowing him to have his packages. They was always giving him problems with his visits. They weren't abusing him. They weren't beating him up or nothing like that. But
Right.
there was a mental,
It was more psychological.
okay, you know, abuse.
Right.
You know, but he withstood it, you know, and he stayed strong and he persevered through that.
So what did he tell you? Did he tell you any specifics or any specific situations where?
Just what I mentioned
Right.
about his mail, holding up his mail, you know, sending back his packages, not allowing him to have the amount of books that he should have had, you know, just refusing some of the stuff that we were sending him.
Right.
They would send it back to us.
Okay.
Stuff, you know, but this is stuff that he's allowed.
Allowed to have,
You know
but
what
they're
I
just
mean?
making it difficult.
Yeah, they was making it difficult for him.
Okay.
You know, and most of the time when I went to visit him, that would be a part of our conversation before we went off into other parts of what the business was.
Did you ever put money on his books?
Yeah.
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 I was just wondering, you know, because that's one of the things that people always.
Watani's job was to make sure that Pac always had money on his books.
Okay.
Watani made sure that every time I went up there, either I will put money on his books, or Watani and make sure the money is always there.
On his books.
Yeah. And he made sure that Fanny was taken care of financially. And, you know, my mother was good. My mother and Fanny like this, you know, as you know.
Absolutely.
So, you know.
Yeah. I appreciate that. Thank you. How did Afeni and the family feel about Tupac when he wanted to sign the death row?
Well, you know, first of all, let me preference what I'm about to say with this.
Right.
When a person is in a situation that, like Tupac was, in jail, lost his freedom, accused of a crime he didn't commit, vilified for some crime that he didn't, you know, for a rape charge, humiliated, sitting up in all 300 miles from New York City, prison, you know, you don't know, you can't judge that person's mindset.
Right.
That's number one.
Right. Absolutely.
Right? We didn't realize it then because we was all, you know, none of us were who we are now.
Back then.
Then.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So we're looking now in hindsight, we're looking back. So that's number one. I want to get that out.
Absolutely.
But what most of us thought was he was making a mistake, obviously.
Okay.
You know, he was signing his life away.
Right.
You know, and he was signing with people that, you know, he couldn't trust. You know, we didn't trust, you know, I mean, you know, but
no, the reason why I asked that because also in Dear Mama, Watani had said the same thing. Being his manager at that time, he expressed to Tupac, hey, you know what you're doing. Right. So the question comes from that information basically on that as to what the family felt because Watani had expressed what he had felt about it.
Absolutely. And let me say this, Watani probably had the best perspective of all of us because of his security background and just him understanding the industry. He understood the industry way better than we did.
Right.
You know, that includes me, his mother,
right,
and my mother, and, you know, maybe not Man
Right.
or Psych or the other people that was in our circle at the time, right? But Watani understood it from a totally different perspective, and he was absolutely right in his reasoning on certain levels.
Right.
You dig?
Right.
But that wasn't what Pac saw. What Pac was trying to do was get out of jail.
Right.
You know, and he wanted to take care of his mother. He wanted to take care of his sister. He wanted to take care of his family. He wanted to try to clear his name.
Yes.
He wanted to do music. He wanted to be creative. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Not locked up in some cell, you know.
For something that you didn't do.
For something that he didn't do.
Right, right.
You know,
So
I probably would have did the same thing, and they offering me money on top of it. Like, you gonna buy this for me? You gonna have this for me? You gonna give me? Yeah,
I'm gonna go further than that.
Yeah.
Not only 100% of the people would have did it, but 200% of the people would have did it.
Why, who wouldn't?
Absolutely, at that particular time, understanding and knowing the information he had, because he was going through that.
Exactly. And then another thing that we have to consider: Pac was 21.
Right.
When he went to prison, he was probably 22.
It was like 23.
23.
Yeah, 23.
He got killed when he was 25.
25.
So he was about 23 years old.
Right.
Very young man with all these processes and decision making that he has to make based on the information that's presented with him.
Right.
Based on the situation that he's in at that moment.
Right.
In that now.
Yes.
He has to make these decisions.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
And like you said, he was the guy that was holding everything down.
He's holding everything down. He's the breadwinner. He's everybody, you know, like,
yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That's real. Yeah. I mean, like I said, I always say that he was when they talk about gangster, when you take care of your family, that makes you more gangster than anything that you
say that.
Yeah.
Say that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So to me, you know, it's easy to go out and do commit felonies and things like that. But a man who's 25, 24, 23, and you handling everything and taking care of everything for your family, that makes you a real gangster.
Man, was he?
Absolutely.
Was he? We had no clue.
Right.
We didn't know the extent of what he was going through.
Right.
But we know now.
Yes, sir.
You know, because we were able to live our lives and see
in hindsight and look back
yeah,
to over
exactly,
time.
man.
Yeah.
You know?